Hello everyone, welcome to a session on flight adaptations in birds. In the previous session, we discussed about the morphological adaptations or morphological volant adaptations of birds, and in this session, we are going to see the list of anatomical volant adaptations of birds. In that, we'll be discussing about the important flight muscles, their endoskeleton, their respiratory system, the viscera, the digestive system, the circulatory system, their warm bloodedness, their excretory system, brain and sense organs, and reproductive organs. So these are the topics that will be discussed under the adaptations or anatomical adaptations of uh, birds or anatomical volant adaptations. Of this, the very important one is the first one, which are the flight muscles, which are the main adaptations that enable the bird to fly. So, first, we'll move on to one by one. First, we'll see the flight muscles. So, in anatomical volant adaptations, the first one is the flight muscles. The flight muscles these are the muscles which control the action of the wings, and they are very greatly developed. And coming to the muscles at the back, that means at the backside of the bird, they are poorly developed or they are reduced. But the muscles which help in flight, they are greatly developed in the that is muscles in the wings as well as the muscles which we are going to discuss now. The pectoral muscles that affect flight are attached to the keel and the wings. So the pectoral muscles, which are usually referred to as the flight muscles, which are attached to the keel, which help in the process of flight, is uh, collectively called as the pectoral muscles, of which the first one is pectoralis major. Coming to the pectoralis major, it is the largest of the flight muscles. So we'll first see which are these muscles in these particular diagrams. So these are two short videos which shows how these muscles which we discuss here they act, or what are their positions and how are they acting, and how do they cause the particular process of flight. So, if you see this particular video, you can clearly see two muscles, of which one is a bigger one or a larger one, and the other one is smaller. So, the larger one that you see here, this one, the larger one, that is called as the pectoralis major. And you can see that when this particular muscle, pectoralis major, it is now contracting, and when pectoralis major contracts, what happens is it causes a downward stroke. So the same can be seen here. You can see here, uh, and that is this is the pectoralis major, and when it is contracting, so let this video come. So the one which you see here is pectoralis minor. This one is a thin, and it is the smallest one, which is pectoralis minor. And you can see here this underneath one, which is a broader, the larger one is the pectoralis major. You can see when pectoralis major is contracting, you can see the beating of the wing it causes a downward stroke of the wing. As a result, the bird moves up. The reason is that, as we said earlier, in the morphological adaptation, we said that the wing is having a concave or a convex surface in the undersurface and a concave surface on the dorsal side. So here you are having a convexity, and here you are having a concavity. Uh, Sorry, concavity here and convexity on top. So what happens in this case is that because a high pressure is being created by the air in this particular region, beating of the wings downward causes the high pressure to cause the bird to move up, and that is because of the contractions of this muscle, which is called as the pectoralis major, the larger one that you see here. This one you can also see here the close-up view here. That is contraction, and that causing the downward stroke. And downward stroke usually causes the bird to move up. The second one, the smaller than the major, the one is called as pectoralis minor. It is lengthier, but it is thinner than pectoralis major. And the contraction of pectoralis minor, you can see this. Contraction of this is now contracting, and that is causing an upward stroke of the wing is caused by, you can see this is now reducing in size. When the muscle reduces in size, that is called as contraction. And you can see both the contractions here. Contraction of the pectoralis major causes upward stroke. Contraction of the pectoralis major causes a downward stroke, and minor causes an upward stroke. And there is a small muscle arising from the coracoid region, which is not shown in this animations. And this is called as the coracobranchialis, and it helps to pull the wings downward during flight. So this is an important feature or an important adaptation of birds in flight. The muscles, and mainly the pectoralis major and pectoralis minor. These are the pectoral muscles which are seen in the pectoral region. You can see they are attached to the keel. So this is the keel. They are attached to the keel. So as we said, the function of keel, it is a site of attachment of flight muscles. And the flight muscles, the main flight muscles that are attached to the keel is the pectoralis major and pectoralis minor. The function combined action of both causes the upward stroke and the downward stroke. So downward stroke by the pectoralis major is the cause for an upward thrust. As a result, the bird moves up. So this is the muscles or the flight muscles. Moving on to the second one, which is endoskeleton. So most of the endoskeletal elements are the ones which we discussed in the salient features. So most of the bones are pneumatic in the sense they are filled with air spaces. They are filled with air spaces, as you see here. The bones with air spaces, which are called as the pneumatic bones, and most of the vertebra is fused. And one of the fusion is termed as the synsacrum, which provides a firm fulcrum for the action of the wings. So you can also see the synsacrum. So this is the fused vertebra in the lumbar and uh, uh, the posterior region. In this particular region, the anterior most caudal and also the lumbar vertebrae, they are fused together, forming the synsacrum, the fused vertebra, which is called as the synsacrum. And this synsacrum and the skull bones are thin and papery, and also they are also fused. They are not separate. The skull bones are also fused. The teeth are absent, and they are replaced by much lighter beaks. So the main intention of such adaptations in the endoskeleton is to reduce weight to minimum, so that a flight can be aided. So whatever that you see here, the adaptations in the endoskeleton is meant to reduce weight. That's why the bones is not as normal as you see in other animals. It is not that hard. It's rigid. It is strengthened, but the inner spaces or the inner side, they are having air spaces. The same with the skull bones. The skull bone is paperweight, and it is completely fused together. Teeth is absent, and that is replaced by a much lighter, thinner, but sharp beaks. Then the arched clavicle and the pillar-like coracoid are suitable to resist the pressure of downward stroke. So, if they had a clavicle as ours, which is straight, our collarbone, which is a straight one, what would happen is if you try to beat the our hands like the wings, you can see if you do it for 50 times, you can feel a pain in the clavicle region. To avoid that, the clavicle is arched and the coracoid is pillar-like, so that the pressure exercise is resisted. Next is the heterocoelous vertebra in the the cervical region, and also a single occipital condyle. Both these confers 180-degree movement of the neck and head, and these movements are very useful uh, collecting the food and also for preening the feathers, which is the preening of the feathers is a requirement for flight, because the feathers has to be very smooth to reduce friction of the air, etc. And the next one is another endoskeletal modification, which was called as a pygostyle. So that is a fused posterior most caudal vertebra, which are fused together, and that forms what is called as the pygostyle. So this pygostyle is also a modification or an adaptation for to assess stability in air. Then the sternum is well developed with the keel. As we saw, they are well adapted for attachment of the flight muscles. Then the V-shaped furcula act as a spring and keeps the wings well apart. The clawless and reduced number of digits acts as wing supporters. The pelvic girdle and the hind limbs are usually occupy an anterior position rather than the most posterior, as we saw in reptiles. And this is to support the weight of the body, so that the hind limbs occupy a position toward the center of the body. As a result, their weight can be managed, so that the center of gravity will be correct, and also the body can be balanced. The third adaptation is the respiratory adaptation. The lungs are solid, they are not elastic, they are solid, they are spongy, and they are attached to the ribs. They are inserted into the ribs. The bronchial tubes leads through the lungs into a number of air sacs, and some of them communicates with the pneumatic bones. And the important feature of the lung is that the lungs is the one which helps to oxidize the food rapidly, and because the flight is a mechanism. Flight is a type of locomotion which require enormous amount of energy. So the energy requirement of flight is met by the rapid oxidation, which is aided by the lungs. The lungs and the air sacs always contain air, as we said in the salient features, because of the presence of air sac. That means when the air is inspired, both the lungs and also the air sacs gets the air. And what happens in the next step is that when during exhalation, the air from the lungs will move out, but the air from the air sacs comes to the lungs, so that the process of gaseous exchange always occurs in the lungs. There is no gap for gaseous exchange in the lungs, as we have, because we have a small gap between inspiration and expiration, but in their case there is no gap. Every time the lungs is filled with air, and gaseous exchange always takes place. So that's why it is said that the avian lungs is aerated twice at each breath, which requires perfect oxygenation. Twice in the sense, one is during inhalation, the lungs will be filled with air, and also the air sacs, which are present in the sides, they are also filled with air. So during exhalation, all the air from the lungs usually goes out. But during that time, the air from the air sacs comes to the lungs, and that air causes the gaseous exchange in the lungs during the process of exhalation. That is why it is said that the avian lungs are aerated twice at each breath. Then air sacs and the system of air tubes impart a certain amount of buoyancy, which also helps in flight. So these are the adaptations that is conferred by the lungs for flight. Next is the viscera, or the internal organs. So the internal organs are thickly packed, because there is only little space in the body. So the internal organs are very tightly packed, and you can see that the kidneys, they are placed inside a socket, so that there is no separate space for the kidney. The heart is also placed in a chamber, or a particular notch in the liver. In the liver, there is a notch, so that there is no extra space for the heart. The heart resides in a space in which is produced by the liver. The internal organs are crowded; they are overlapped to save space. Gallbladder is absent. So all these are to maintain so that the volume is decreased. Everything is tightly packed. There is no extra space. extra space which is present in the viscera, etc. All these are helping the bird in the adaptation to fly. Next is the digestive system. As we said in the case with lungs, they are aiding in rapid metabolism because they need more and more energy during flight. As a result, the process of digestion is also very rapid and selective. Is a small spelling mistake. It is selective diet and rapid elimination of undigested waste. They have only a very short rectum, and this rectum never stores undigested food. There is no storage of undigested food. Whenever the food is digested and it reaches from the small intestine to the large intestine to the rectum, it just is passed out. So there is no storage, because if undigested food is stored inside the body, that also causes to increase the weight. So that should not happen. So whenever the undigested food reaches the rectum, it is soon eliminated. That's why when they fly, they shed their castings, because there is no storage of undigested food in birds. Next is the circulatory system. Coming to the circulatory system, the rapid metabolism, it is also related to rapid metabolism, requires large oxygen supply. And oxygen is taken by the lungs. It is circulated by the circulatory system, and it is used for the process of oxidizing food, which is provided by the digestive system. So the rapid metabolism requires large supply of oxygen, which is achieved by efficient circulatory system, and this is aided by the four-chambered heart, which is large-sized, powerful, and efficient. And because it is four-chambered, there is a complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Their hemoglobin content is very high, and this is responsible for the blood's quick and perfect oxygenation. So this is what concerning the adaptations of the circulatory system, followed by the seventh one, which is warm bloodedness. They are homeotherms, which are having an internal body temperature, and the body temperature is very high, which do not change with the environment because they are homeotherms. Their high body temperature is because of the rapid rate of metabolism. The high and constant body temperature enables the bird to take flights even at in every season, whatever the season may be, whatever the temperature may be. They can fly in every temperature because of this high temperature, which is provided by the active metabolism. So how metabolism is related to temperature is that during metabolism, heat is being liberated, and that heat, in the case of humans, in the case of we human beings also, our body temperature is maintained by the heat which is generated due to by the metabolic process, which is a byproduct of the metabolic process, and the excess heat is being evaporated, or it is being uh, discarded by the body in the form of sweat, etc. So whatever is excess being thrown out through the blood. But in the case of birds, also they are having this very high body temperature. It's something around 40 to 42 degrees Celsius in birds, and that is because of this rapid metabolic process. Then the eighth one, the excretory system. The loop of Henle in the nephrons, they are efficient in water absorption. The copodium of the cloaca is also another efficient absorbing organ. The urinary bladder is absent. So the rectum is short, the urinary bladder is absent. As a result, there is no storage of both excretory as well as digestive waste. The nitrogenous waste is excreted as uric acid crystals, which is also a physiological volunt adaptation, so that water is conserved. Because during their flight, there is no chance of getting water. So, whatever water is there in their food, it is conserved in their body itself, and that's why they're having the crystalline or uric acid crystals as their nitrogenous waste, and there is a very efficient water absorbing system in the excretory system. As a result, a less amount of water is being lost from the body. The ninth one, and the ninth adaptation is anatomical volunt adaptations, the brain and the sense organs. The brain is very highly developed with well developed centers for equilibrium and muscular coordination and instinct. The eye is well adapted to see clearly from heights, and the structure which is called as the pecten. So the pecten is a comb-like structure, as we discussed earlier. They are vascular pigmented comb-like structures projecting in the vitreous chamber. It is seen at the point of entry of the optic nerve, and they are concerned with power of accommodation. So they help to see or help to see objects from a very greater distance. So that is also concerning the sense organ. Next, coming to the reproductive organs, in female birds, the right ovary and oviduct is absent. Only the left one is present. This is also an adaptation to reduce the weight, and necessarily, and this reduces the weight of the body. So these are the major adaptations of birds, or the adaptations of birds for flight. So, in adaptations of flight, we discussed in two heads. In the previous session, we talked about the morphological adaptations, where we talked about the feathers, the body shape, etc. And in anatomical one, we talked about all the flight muscles, the important flight muscles: pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, followed by the endoskeleton, then all the systems, the viscera, the digestive system, the respiratory system, the excretory, the brain and sense organs, and reproductive organs, all which are being modified for the adaptation to for flight. So with this, we come to the end of this particular session of flight adaptations in birds. Thanks for hearing.